Hey guys, so I thought I'd bring another monthly round of Cyber Dragon replays where I get to show you some fun interactions in some of the matches that I played. I did use the exact same list that I used for the YCS still, except that I did revert back to the Mechaba instead of the second Mega Fleet. So you can check out my YCS deck profile for a more in-depth explanation. So let's just get started. Okay, so our first opponent will be against Tri-Brigade. Certainly a deck that you're going to be seeing a lot on Dueling Book nowadays. So we are going second. They're going to use the Rescue Cat, which I do try to Ash, but unfortunately it's met by Gamma. Of course, they're all playing Gamma. Well, not all, but most are playing Gamma. And, well, you know, they get to trigger a lot of effects before having a monster on board, so it becomes live quite a lot, but I did want to hit them near the beginning of their plays, and so instead I get heavily punished, and he also goes into Omega to get rid of another card. And I actually recently did a video where I broke down the most common ratios of core cards and extra deck cards and most played hand traps and staples played in Tri-Brigade based on the available deck list that topped the YCS, so make sure to go check that out. And so here, going to special out that Fractal from hand through Fergit, and Fractal will use his effect to special out the Bearbrum. And they're just going to link away for that Appaloosa, which typically is not a problem for us, at least if we have OG Cyber Dragon. That's much better. That way we can at least use Core's effect. So I think my opponent messed up the sequencing here. It does have to put a card back, and we do know that at least one of those cards is a Revolt. And we were trying to add the original Cyber Dragon, but unfortunately, met by Imperial Order, we're gonna have to scoop. I really hope that card gets banned because it's just far too strong, doesn't let us play a big part of the game, and hopefully it gets banned again. I know a lot of people are calling for it, but I am still gonna try to go second here. Gonna special out the Keras and uses Airborne Assault. Basically, you can target one of the 3 beast types and then just special another one from deck that has the same or rather lower attack or equal attack, and also with a different type. So it's not a card that you typically see in Tri-Brigade. I mean, in that analytical video I told you about, I did not actually see this card being played at all among the lists, but who knows, maybe it's a good tech, certainly useful in this situation. And so they're going to bring out the Fractal through Fergit. I will Imperm, although not as impactful. They did already have multiple bodies on board. Going to go into that Bearbrum, and Fergit will trigger, draw and put a card to the bottom of the deck, and sets one, probably a Revolt. And I do have Ghost Spell this time, and they don't have Appaloosa set up, so it's going to be quite useful. So we're going to use Hers effect, add the Cyber Dragon, and then we're going to do an unconventional way of going into Nova because we're going to use Rough System to special out that Cyber Dragon from hand. And so we'll go into Nova, but we actually get Nibiru, so okay, well, you know, it's still fun. As I say all the time, we can generally play through it decently well. So Nova will trigger, and we're going to bring out the Rampage instead of Mechaba because I did want to get a core into the grave, but unfortunately it is met by an Ash. So we're just going to convert that token into the Link Spider, go into Anaconda. At this point, of course, it is a Revolt, but we do have that Ghost Spell that is live this time, and we will bring out Dragoon, pop the Nibiru for 3,000. And my opponent is having a bit of trouble with the life points here, but we get that fixed up, and we're just going to poke for a little bit more damage. And we're just going to enter in here. I thought about setting the overflow, but realistically it was just better to have it in hand so I can negate and destroy with Dragoon because he was in top deck mode. So game 3, we are going second again. And so we have Ash and Ghost Spell. That's really good. It's going to start off with the Rescue Cat. We don't get punished by Gamma this time with the Ash, so that's good. It does have Tenki though, and adds the Fractal. And he's going to send that to the grave, and that's going to dump Nerval, but I think that was a misclick, and he's actually going to send the Kit instead, and send the Nerval, and then Nerval will add the Keras. So, going to dump the Nerval for the Keras, and use that effect, and going to bring out the Shurug, and just going to link those two away for Fergit, and now, it's going to be able to use the Shurug effect, it's going to add the Kit, and special with the Fergit, and then Kit's gonna trigger, and special out Bearbrum. And gonna link into Appaloosa once again. We have Ghost Spell, but now that's not gonna be live until we get rid of this Appaloosa, and Fergit of course, as well as Bearbrum, and gets the Revolt. And so we know at least one of them is Revolt. We don't quite know what the other one is. We're gonna special the Cyber Dragon. I was hoping he wouldn't do anything here, but smart play. We'll use the Revolt to try to get rid of the Cyber Dragon in case I have a Ghost Spell in hand, right? And then I would just get rid of the Appaloosa. So definitely a good play on my opponent's part. And he's going to dump the Fractal and get the Keras. and banish the Cyber Dragon. But luckily we do have Cyber Emergency, so we're just going to try that one more time. And so we will just contact fuse that Appaloosa away for the Mega Flit. I was just asking what my opponent added previously. So we're going to start with the core, or rather summon the core, add the Repair Plant, and go into Anaconda. Gonna use Repair Plant. Didn't really matter. I can't quite remember why I decided to add the Naxxter. I guess, I mean, it can kind of provide a free body and could special the Cyber Dragon, but I was like, well, I mean, I guess I have the ref system, so it didn't really matter. So that way I had enough just for game. So I am gonna bring out the Dragoon here, and I wasn't quite sure what that message set was, but at this point it seemed like it was pretty much a bluff. So we are just gonna pop and burn. And yeah, I guess it was another revolt, that's why. So we do win that one, so let's move on to the next one. Alright, so this next replay is against some Invoked Dragoon deck, and I do lose this one, but there's a play at the end in game 3 where I really want to show what I was trying to do and could have possibly OTK through a Dragoon after being negated. But anyways, gonna start with the Nadir Servant. I will Ash that, and unfortunately has the talents and gets rid of the only good card in my hand, essentially. Has Red Eyes Fusion. Would have been nice to save the Ash for that, but I mean, Nadir Servant's so powerful on its own as well. So for turn, not looking good, and I'm just gonna pass. Fortunately, I am not dead just yet, so, and I do draw Prosperity, and because I clearly, to my opponent, he's gonna know that I didn't draw very well. I mean, he saw my hand. If I just play Prosperity, then he would just negate it anyway, so I figured I'd save it until my next draw, possibly have something like Droplet or something, but I decided to just scoop. It was really not going anywhere, so we're going straight to game 2. And here I see the Invoke part of the deck coming out with the Meltdown, adding the Alistair, and going to use, of course, the effect. And I'm actually just going to fast forward here. I mean, I don't have any hand traps, so we'll just let them go off. Going to bring out the Mechaba, of course, use Invocation effect, bring back the Alistair. And also even has Ecclesia and adds the Punishment. So, and the Nadir Servant, oh my goodness. Just a really, really good hand. While I have a very awkward hand and definitely does not look anything like Cyber Dragon really at this point. So uses Maximus. I tried to use Nova's effect there, but he did negate with Mechaba. Sorry about that, that did go a little bit faster, but essentially has a Fleur, Punishment, Schism, Mechaba. It's looking pretty good. So we do draw Emergency for turn. We're gonna try to blow away the back row, knowing that there is a Schism that they're gonna just be able to activate. And going to bring out the window. I'm not quite sure why they decided to bring out the window in the extra monster zone when he knows I'm playing Cyber Dragons because he saw my hand previously. So we're going to start with the Prosperity, banish for 6, and that's actually going to get negated by Mechaba. So now we're going to use Emergency and add the Hearse. That way that's something we can pitch for Dragoon and get to plus a little off of that. And so we're going to use the Red Eyes Fusion now to bring out Dragoon. And we're going to try to pop that Maximus. Going to use, or at least try to use Fleur, which would of course negate Dragoon, so I have to negate that. So we're going to pitch to hers, and again, because of hers effect, now at least I get to add the Cyber Dragon, and Overflow can now pop 2 cards at least. So now we're going to get rid of the Ecclesia, because I can't attack over it, and we'll just go over the Mechaba, set the Overflow, and pass. So you know what? Opponent had a really strong board, but we somehow managed to at least clear most of it with just Dragoon alone. So we are going to negate the Alistair, and looks like our opponent just scoops there. Alright, game 3, and this has been quite a fast one, and this is the game where I want to show the interaction that I was trying to do. I am forced to go first, and my Red Eyes Fusion gets Ash, my hand's not great, so we're just going to set a couple cards, and our opponent has his own Red Eyes Fusion, so that's unfortunate. So I'm going to bring out that Dragoon, and just start poking. So at least it doesn't have any sets, although we do have the red reboot. So I decide to just not do anything for now. I'm just gonna save one more turn, hope that I survive, and in fact it does look like it. So now we do have to get moving, we are gonna die otherwise. So here we're gonna add the Cyber Dragon so that we get a free body. We're gonna use Core, which I did expect to get negated and destroyed, and so here is where I go into Overload or activate Overload, and at this point you would think that, oh well, it doesn't look like I have that much of a play, but here, so with Rampage effect, I'm actually going to pop my own Overflow, and I'm going to try to use its effect, but unfortunately it was met by Skullmeister, which really hurt. So what I was trying to do is, so when Overflow is destroyed, you can add a Cyber Dragon spell or trap, right? So what I would have done is I would have actually added Cyber Ref System. That way, I can then use Rampage's effect and send the Naxxter and Cyber Dragon to grave. You would use the Ref System, bring back the Naxxter, and then Naxxter would bring back the Cyber Dragon. You would go into Seeger, and then you would enter battle, and Dragoon is at 4,000 right now, so you would basically, you know, attack into it with the 4200 Rampage, and then attack 2 more times per game. So even with a situation like that where it didn't look like I was going anywhere, you know, being able to pop your own Overflow can be actually a key difference maker. Of course, it's not something that's going to happen often. I mean, Overflow and Overload Fusion, that's just 2 1-ofs, but just letting you know that that interaction is there in case you needed a way to OTK. So let's get to the final replay. So our final replay is against Pendulum Magicians, which of course is not meta by any means, but certainly a good rogue option. But you know, this match also had an interaction that I wanted to show, at least in game 3. And actually, fun story, before I played Cyber Dragons, I actually played Pendulum Magicians before that, and it's just a deck that I really love. Of course, back then the end boards were completely different than what they are now. I mean, it used more so the Guard Dragon package, but it's a deck that I really like and something that I hope to go back to one day. But for now, you know, they are going to set up their usual pendulum scales and shenanigans, going to use Harmonizing Magician, and also the Sorcerer adds the Joker and specials out the Wisdom Eye. So gonna go into the Dagda here. He didn't mean to use the effect yet. I'm gonna go into Tornado Dragon. You know they're gonna do that whole Scythe thing. Oath Dragon. Gonna add a Magician in scale to back to hand. And so here I make a huge misplace. So me being a Yu-Gi-Oh player and not knowing how to read, I didn't realize that Dagda is actually a quick effect, which meant that he'd just be able to set the Scythe next turn. So of course it would have just been, you know, smarter to just, let's say, negate the Tornado Dragon on my turn to begin with. So I'm not sure what I was thinking there. And I am going to get punished because, you know, if I had the Imperm still, then I probably would have just OTK'd through it. I don't know. I mean, the set, I just expected it would be the Trap, the Pendulum Graph, but you know, I did have a good hand aside from the red eyes, and I am going to get punished that you will see shortly. So, you know, I guess the lesson learned here is definitely read your opponent's cards properly. And so we're going to do our plays, and this is where I realized, oh, it's a quick effect, and well, you know, not looking too good for me. Gonna trigger Scythe spell trigger, so I can't use extra deck, so I decided to just scoop and just admit my mistake. And you know, I actually decided to go first against Pendulum Magicians just because playing this deck, I know how it can struggle going second, and it's also a deck that really can't really play hand traps. I mean, they can post side, but I don't think he would have expected me to go first anyways playing Cyber Dragons. So we'll just fast forward here. It's like our typical play, so I wasn't really worried about hand traps against this deck. And going second, like I said, you know, it's not their forte, and they're going to have a hard time even with just the Infinity Dragoon setup, I figured. And I also have Ashendro, which is amazing going first. So I'm also going to add the Hers as well with the emergency, so that when I pitch off of Dragoon, I get to have a plus. I also decided to keep the Anaconda so that I could go into Chimeric Rampage if it does remain until the next turn, so I can destroy scales as well. I'm actually going to negate and destroy the scale here, and the Oath Dragon should actually go to the grave because the activation was negated. He does have Wisdom Eye though, so he's going to use the Duelist Alliance and add the Pendulum Graph. And of course at this point we draw, which is going to be pretty big, and so Wisdom Eye will try to trigger, or rather no, that's not true. On the activation of the scale for Double Iris, I am just going to negate that because I just really want to prevent any form of scales being assembled. So our opponent quickly scoops there. So we are already going to game 3 pretty fast. So we're going second, but we draw pretty well. We have the Nibiru and the Imperm. It's going to start with the Magician's Souls. Just going to try to draw one. Not going to negate that. Not too worth it. Going to normally Harmonizing. And going to Hulk. Now this is definitely worth imperming, so we will negate that. And just sets one pass, really not a good hand. I did have the Nibiru anyways, even if they went off. Drawing the Red Eyes Fusion, not too great ideally, but we are just going to try to kill. I didn't really expect much of their set in terms of Pendulum Magician, so I add the Repair Plant off of the core. At this point, Hulk will trigger, and he will special TG Wonder Magician. So this is something I didn't expect to happen, but turns out the set was a Scythe, which now triggers and brings out and locking me out of the extra deck. So that's not looking too good, but I felt, you know what, I do have the Nibiru. I felt like if he was trying to kill me, then he would probably have to summon a lot to get that point. So I thought I was in still a good enough position, and looks like I really am. I just had to go to battle phase right away. I'm gonna use another Magician's Soul and use this Secret Village, and my hand's full of spells. But one thing is that a lot of us are probably playing Anima, so with the core, I'm gonna summon the Hers, which is a level 1, and we're gonna go into Anima. And yes, Anima is a spellcaster, and this has actually come up several times. It doesn't come up a lot, obviously, and that's not the main reason we play Anima. It's just a good, decent card. And so now I'm gonna activate Repair Plan, which doesn't really matter. We already used Hers effect, but I'm just gonna get the core so that, you know, it's engraved so that we have follow-up play. And our opponent just scoops here, but clearly you can see that, you know, we are able to play spells again, and we just have a lot of line of play, right? We can just use Soldier, you can pitch any of the two lights and bring out Nova Infinity. You can even, you know, special out Baby Cyber Drone with Nova, Machine Dupe. We have Overload Fusion. We just have super duper game. But I just wanted to show that, you know, be able to use Anima to its fullest. And yeah. Alright guys, so that was it for this month's Cyber Dragon replays. Hope you found that entertaining. Something I wanted to try out next was use Destiny Hero Destroy Phoenix Enforcer in Cyber Dragons in the instances that Dragoon gets banned. So maybe I'll try to play against some friends to get some gameplays for that one. Anyways, that's it for me. Take care guys.